Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to do a quick explainer about how the Tories played very dirty politics yesterday in blocking a Labour motion which would have forced water companies to avoid discharging raw sewage into our waterways, and like the cookies they are, replaced it with their own heavily modified version which basically does nothing at all. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this isn't particularly complicated, but it is very, very important. Yesterday, Labour presented an opposition day motion to Parliament, which would have worked to dissuade water companies from unnecessarily discharging raw sewage into our waterways. The intended impact would be that these discharges would be hugely reduced and kept to an absolute minimum. Needless to say, the Conservatives didn't want this motion anywhere near Parliament, because if they voted in favour of it, well, they'd be hurting the profits of their mates with loads of shares in water companies. If they voted against it, they're voting against action to stop sewage discharge, and this issue is a big one. Even Conservative voters hate this policy of allowing sewage discharge. So the Conservatives have to pretend that they're doing what they can to stop it. So it seemed that the Tories were completely trapped between actually taking action, which hurt corporate profits, or supporting the corporate profits, but very clearly being against public health and just against, maintaining our green and pleasant land. However, Tories play dirty. Because they represent a majority in Parliament, Rishi Sunak had an amendment to the motion put to a vote. So what he basically did is he took Labour's motion and said, oh, it's very interesting, yeah. We don't like this bit here, so I'm going to cross that bit out for you. Is that all right? No, it's not all right. Well, I'm the Prime Minister, I do what I like. But I'll tell you what, the government can't just do this to your bill. We have to put it to a vote. We'll see what Parliament thinks about it. So puts it up to a vote. Quelle surprise, most MPs vote in favour of the amendment because most MPs are Tory MPs. And that's how it works. The government have the ability to do this. They really shouldn't, but they do. Sunak's amendment removed the teeth from the Labour's motion, meaning that it would do nothing to prevent water companies carrying on with their grotesque habit of dumping raw sewage whenever they like. And because the Conservatives have a majority in the House of Commons, the amendment easily passed, and it will always easily pass. They basically voted to change Labour's motion into something they could live with. And it also stopped Labour presenting their own motion. Because you think, well, OK, they've changed, but Labour should still be able to put forward their own motion. No, because in Parliament, you're not allowed to present two motions which are very similar in scope. The amended motion was then voted on, with Tory MPs happily voted in favour because it didn't do anything. Didn't do anything to hurt corporate profits or protect public health. Opposition MPs, including Labour MPs, of course, just abstained on it, because it looked silly to vote against it because it's their motion, even though loads be taken out, but also silly to vote in favour of it because they've taken out what they wanted. Tory MPs then boasted about voting in favour of forcing water companies to clean up their act, and how Labour would not even vote in favour of their own motion. Lies, of course, because it wasn't their own motion anymore. And this is not the first time this has happened either. It happened last year. Keir Starmer put forward a motion to, it's sort of a confidence motion in Boris Johnson. And the Tories did the same thing. It was one of these motions that was going to be very difficult for them. If they voted in favour of it, they were basically saying that they had no confidence in Boris Johnson. So, he'd have to go. If they voted against it, then they were basically supporting the behaviour that was specifically mentioned in this motion that was very unpopular with the public at the time. So what they did instead is they voted to amend it. So they again took the Labour motion, took a red pen, this is fine. No. Right, we'll vote on the thing that we've now turned it into. Again, removing the teeth from the motion, preventing Labour presenting their own motion worded in the way they would want it to be worded. So for anyone confused about what seems to have happened, that is what went down, and that is why the Tories are now trying to claim that Labour abstained on their own motion. They didn't. The Tories are lying again. As an aside, I will just say that it should not be possible to amend motions like this. Opposition MPs get few enough opportunities to have votes in the House as it is. It's understood that the government usually have a majority and would be easily able to vote down any opposition motion anyway. I see no sound democratic reason why they should also be able to stop the opposition even presenting motions for a vote with the wording that they have chosen. So that's where we are with the political game. It's now for Labour to explain to people what the Conservatives have done and why. But there's another dimension to this latest dirty game of politics, because it highlights just how poorly Parliament represents the public. In our first past the post system, it is possible, in fact it almost always happens like this, for a party winning much less than half of the popular vote to win more than half the seats, and so have all of the power. The current Conservative government have their large majority based on 43% of the vote in 2019. That means that if every single opposition MP, collectively representing significantly more votes than the Conservatives won, if they were to agree on a policy altogether, the DUP, Labour, the Lib Dems, SNP, Plaid, Greens, everyone on the opposition benches all agreed on a particular policy, but it was a policy not agreed by the Tories, the party representing the minority of voters would be able to block it every single time without fail, without any sweat. That's not really democratic, and it's one of the reasons I favour full proportional representation. However, even if you believe that the first past the post system is on balance better, you accept the fact that you have this aberration where the majority of the House of Commons may only represent a minority of people voting and a really small minority of the general population. There is still another problem specifically here. The opposition are called the opposition because they oppose the government, but they also represent many millions of voters around the country. How do they represent those voters? Well, they can get involved in select committees, scrutinising the work of government. Fine, that's not really representing those voters, it's just scrutinising the government. They can stand up, they can make speeches or statements in the House. Well, that's representing views, that's putting certain views on record. Fine, that's okay. But that's no way to bring about change. The only way the opposition can really represent the majority of voters is by introducing motions and bills of their own. It is understood that, yes, the party of government can sink every single one of them as long as they've got a certain majority, they've got the numbers to do it. But what is the justification for blocking the vote in the first place? The government already gets to control most of the business timetable in Parliament. What little is given to opposition MPs who, remember, have always represented the majority of voters in my lifetime. What is the justification for not even allowing them to present motions to Parliament without having the government put a red pen to them first? It's not only undemocratic, but it actively encourages the dirtiest political lies. Because, like I say, Conservative MPs, they're now claiming that they have voted to tackle water companies over sewage discharge, and that it is Labour and other opposition MPs who've refused to do so. This is objectively a lie. And it's a lie that is only possible to tell because of this wholly undemocratic system of allowing the government to rewrite opposition motions before they are put to a vote. And it is things like this that I will bring up if anyone dares to complain about the reforms to Parliament that Labour will introduce after the election. We know they're going to focus on the House of Lords first, but I think the House of Commons will be coming. And there can be no complaints because our political system has shown itself to be utterly incapable of self-regulating. The days of standards based on the decent chap philosophy are dead and buried. Changes are the only way to stop this gutter politics in future. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships, and until next time, I'll see you later.